Hey you guys, Trey Vittetoe here, and today I want to talk about music publishing and whether or not you need a publishing deal. So there is no short answer to that question, because there will come a time, if you build your career far enough, that a publishing deal is absolutely necessary. I worked in music publishing from the mid-90s when I got out of college and came out to Los Angeles to about 2013. My area that I worked in was mostly creative. I worked with producers and songwriters, and I worked with the departments that were directly associated with song issues. The Copyright Department, Royalties Department, anything involved with finances and studio. So I had a chance to see a lot of pieces of the publishing company from the creative side. To begin with, what I'd like to do is give you sort of a slimmed down explanation of what publishing companies do. Publishing is the most misunderstood aspect of the music business. I'm confident of it. I have friends that have been artists for 30 years, big artists, and they have publishing deals and they make a lot of money off their publishing, and they still don't really understand exactly what that is. So let's go back 200 years so you can understand what publishers did then and how it relates to now, because I think it helps to understand what a publisher's function is. Let's just go back to the time of Beethoven. When Beethoven would create a composition, he didn't just perform it live. That wasn't the way he made his living exclusively. They sold that music in the form of sheet music. And the further out he could reach out with music publishers to get his music on the shelf, the more money he made. So right there, that should tell you something about music publishers. Back then, a music publisher exclusively printed sheet music, and then they bartered deals to get that sheet music into music stores. So guys like Beethoven were pretty smart. You didn't have publishers then that controlled vast territories like the world, or, believe it or not, in agreements that are written today with publishers, you will sign a deal for the universe. But back then, their areas were their locale. How far they could reach, who knows, a few miles, a few hundred miles. So Beethoven was a smart guy. He went to publishers in various parts of Europe and struck up different publishing deals. So he knew that his music was being sold all around Europe. And that's what a publisher did. They made an agreement with the composer, printed the sheet music for their compositions, and sold it in music stores. And the deal was, and maybe there were some variations on this, but essentially it was a 50-50 kind of deal. And that would cover the publisher's cost for printing, and that would compensate the composer for his work. So if we move into the 20th century, there is a huge shift in what publishers do. In the 20th century, the music business got real, and publishers found that there were other ways to make money. Being part of the exploitation of the music, placing it in film, or especially when television arrives, placing music in television, placing music in ads and advertisement campaigns. All of those things were major money generators. So publishers started getting in that business as well. As they did, the publishing deals became much more complicated, because they were out there doing a lot more for songwriters. For instance, a publisher will take a certain amount on performance money, which is related to radio, things where the music is being performed, live performances. The publisher has a certain cut they take there, and then a publisher has a different cut they take on mechanical royalties or digital royalties where music is being sold. So as we moved into the late 20th century and now, the initial role of the publisher, where they were putting out this sheet music, that went away. I mean, it's still there. You can still go buy sheet music, of course, but major publishers like Universal Music or EMI or Warner Chappell, they broker that out to companies like Hal Leonard, where that's what their main function is. They produce sheet music, and it's just a third-party relationship. Now, let's talk about what you would like to expect from a publisher today. Well, the most important thing that I think a modern publisher does is collection. Now, I don't know how difficult that was in the time of Beethoven. Somebody had to go to the music stores and collect the money that was made. But today, the idea of collection is so complex, and it's complex in any one country. Collecting in countries like Japan is different than collecting here. What's it like to collect in Indonesia? Or what's it like to collect in Mexico? Publishers have to know how to function worldwide. To me, that's the most important function of a publisher. Another function that a publisher does, a really important function, is copywriting your music. Now, can you copyright your music by yourself? Yes, you can. You can copyright your music, you register it with the Library of Congress, so it's protected. A publisher isn't needed for that. But if you're producing a lot of music and you start to make a lot of money and you're in the studio a lot, writing, producing, you probably don't want to have the burden of worrying about all the copywriting and registering with your society and things like that. So again, it's pretty useful to have a publisher. And don't forget, if you've got a song that's making money in global terms, and these days it's very easy to have songs that are being heard all over the world, you can't just register your song with the U.S. Performing Rights Organization. It needs to be registered with performing rights organizations throughout the world. Every territory has a different society. So what else does a publisher do besides collect and copyright? Let's get into some of the things that a publisher should be doing for you that isn't always the case that they are doing it. One of the things that a publisher should be doing, if you're a songwriter or producer, is helping get your songs placed and helping you get connected with either other songwriters or producers or artists directly. So every big publishing company has the ties to do that. They have an ANR department. You should be assigned to a particular ANR person. At Universal, they called the ANR people product managers. No matter what they're called, they should be out there fighting for you. And if you get a great product manager or ANR person, then you are going to benefit because they will hopefully set you up with sessions so you're working with other songwriters. They'll tell you what the pitches are. They're talking to A&R people at labels all the time. They know who's looking for what, so they'll be helping you set up sessions so you can write songs for projects. And if you're up enough on the ladder, they'll be setting up sessions directly with the artist from the label so you can get in there and write directly with the artist. If you're writing with the artist, your chances are exponentially higher of getting a song on the record. Now, there's some interesting in and outs of what I'm talking about right now that I address in a different video about how to get your songs into a record label. And I highly suggest you watch that because what I'm about to tell you is very important. While your A&R person should be doing all of that, your creative staff, your product manager should be working you creatively to get songs on records, it isn't always the case that they do. Publishers have priorities. Certain writers they feel like are important, they'll give them more creative time. So another thing a publisher should be doing on the creative side is getting your songs placed, and not just with record labels, but every big publisher is going to have a major licensing department. That means they're licensing songs to film, television, commercials. Hopefully your licensing department has enough of a staff that they can really competently take care of all of the requests coming in, because there are a ton of requests pouring in every day from film companies, television, and advertisers. Not only is it important to have a good publisher who can negotiate those fees, people that are slick with that know how to go in and get the top dollar. They know exactly what you should get for the type of commercial it is, for the region it's going to be played in, for the product, everything about it. A good licensing person knows what your song is worth. They make way more for you than if you're trying to do it on your own. I think that in the early stages of somebody's career, even if you can get a publisher interested in you and looking at signing you, you may not have enough momentum in your career to really get their attention in a way that they'll really get behind your music, really help promote you as a songwriter and help place your music, help develop relationships with other producers and songwriters and get you in the room with artists. I mean, I really think that that's the first thing you need to know, that ultimately you need to have some momentum already built up for a publishing deal to be of worth to you. But there's also another important thing that you need to consider with a publishing deal. When you sign a publishing deal, unless you carve out specifics as to what is controlled and what isn't controlled, you are almost for sure signing an exclusive publishing deal. That means that they own rights to songs that you've written before the deal, songs that you are writing during that deal period. And because of that, you need to understand that a lot of your ability to place music independently is taken away. For instance, there are companies like Music X-Ray or Song Trader where you have the ability to go out and move your music as an independent songwriter, producer, or artist. And if that's been a success for you and you've started to gain some momentum, signing a publishing deal, you either need to make sure that that is carved out of the deal, that you have the ability to move independently on some things, or you need to avoid a publishing deal while you're trying to do those kind of things, because if you have an exclusive publishing deal in place and you go out and try to sell your music on any of these sites, you cannot forget that your publisher owns a piece of that music. They have the right to license it, and therefore it has to be worked through your publisher. Let's say you as an independent songwriter have managed to get a company interested in your song for a television show. Television works very quickly. I mean, sometimes you have to have approvals done within the day. They have to move quickly. They have to know that the song has no other attachments to it. In other words, there's not other songwriters involved in the song. They have publishing deals that they have to go to those publishers and get approvals. I mean, they want it simple and quick. If you're working through websites like Music X-Ray or Song Trader, they really want to know that it's easy to clear your music. And that's for you as well as any other writers attached to it. So if you have a publisher involved, then all the licensing has to go through your publisher. That means you have to get back on the phone with somebody and go, well, I can't actually just give you the right to use this song. You need to work through my publisher. Now somebody's calling your publisher. Now they're hoping that the deal that they have that they're offering is worth the publisher's time to actually get in motion and deal with the license in a short period of time. If you've somehow secured a television opportunity that's going to make $25,000 or more, they will. Your publisher will jump on it, they'll get involved. But even then, sometimes the way publishing deals are structured, it's just not simple enough for a lot of companies to want to move quickly on, and they'll just bypass your song for something that's easier to license. What I'm telling you is, sometimes with these smaller companies that are working smaller deals, you need to be able to move quickly. You need to be able to say yes or no to the opportunity yourself without having to get a publisher involved. And if it's small money, let's say it's $1,000 or $5,000 for the use of a song, most publishers are just not going to care about that. Licensing people are so inundated with big money sync opportunities that they're not going to get to your $1,000 licensing issue in the day. And I've seen this happen where I've had opportunities that were just small money, but they came and they went because my publisher didn't react quickly enough. So I would say that for people that are just starting out and are working their music independently, don't even worry about having a publishing deal. Just build your career and make something of your music. Get it in motion. Get money flowing back to you on your music. Because once you are in business for yourself, then that's when you look at outside companies like publishers, or if you're an artist, record labels, that you can now attach yourself to, and you can grow your business from there. I think in the past there's always been this fantasy among songwriters to artists that if I can just get that elusive deal, then they'll do all the work. I just have to be the creative person. They'll do everything. That just doesn't exist anymore. Everybody needs to be an independent businessman in his business. A publishing deal is not necessary for people that are just starting out trying to build a career. All the things that you might expect of a publisher that would hopefully propel you into the stratosphere as a songwriter or artist or producer, it's just fantasy at the early stages of the game. They're not going to get that excited about you because it's a business. And what they're going to get excited about is the economic potentials of what you have to offer. But the good news about that, again, is that there are advantages to placing your music directly with companies today, ways to do that that just didn't exist 25 years ago. All you really need to do is get online and start finding the myriad of companies that are placing music. Places like Taxi, Song Trader, Music X-Ray. These are all companies that you can do that with. There you have it. Music publishing is something I'll talk about on my channel from time to time. It's something I know well, and I have strong feelings about when it can benefit you and when it might not benefit you. All right, so if you found the information I presented here useful, please like and subscribe. And until next time.